Welcome back to Cavs Corner. I'm Mitchell and I'm joined by my co-host Brig. And today we are talking about or previewing the upcoming Celtics game, talking about how long this streak will go, and discussing the NBA Cup and the Cavs' place within that tournament. We're excited to dive in and just hit on a few of these topics. What a great time to be a Cavs fan. Brig, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, Mitchell. So let's start with the question of what are you most looking forward to over the next few games, and especially against the Celtics t tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow against the Celtics should be a great game. I think this is like, I was thinking about it. I'm trying to not be too hyperbolic here, but is this the biggest regular season Cavs game since LeBron left? Um, I mean, there's been like games that have playoff implications over the last few years, but like I feel like this is a huge regular season game. Right, we have this streak going. The Celtics are the team to beat, the defending champs, and I think rightfully thought of still as the best team in the league. And it's a nationally televised game. It's going to be, I mean, I think it's going to feel like a playoff game, and I am so excited for it. Uh, so what I'm looking for is, let's see, like, do we bring the juice, right? Do we have the goods? Can we withstand the first punch from Boston? And do we come out with the intensity that's required for a game like this? Or does Boston's kind of poise and chemistry and experience really just take over? Those are some of my biggest questions. But as far as like the Cavs lineups go, I'm also looking forward to, Kenny's been playing a pretty deep bench. He's been sticking with like pretty consistent rotations when healthy. I know there's, some illness going through the team, and that's certainly impacting those rotations. But does he stay consistent with those, or does he mix it up because of how big of a game it is? I'm really just trying to see like, how do the Cavs treat this? Do they treat it like any other game, or do they treat it as like almost kind of a playoff primer or test or measuring stick game against the Celtics? And I think the rotations will be a tell, and the intensity will be another tell. I am so looking forward to this game. But those are the first things on my mind. How about you?
Yeah, I think something that came to my mind while you were talking is how did the Celtics treat this game? I'm assuming that I mean it's obviously the NBA Cup, so and I think that that has added a lot of extra motivation to the players. So I think that, like you said, I think it will be a kind of a playoff atmosphere. I don't think that they're going to treat it like just any other game, especially with the NBA Cup implications that are at stake here. And the Celtics lost to the Hawks in their first NBA Cup game. So if we beat the Celtics tonight, we basically eliminate them from the NBA Cup. Because I don't think a two-loss team will make it into the quarterfinals, make it out of the group stage. So I think that, yeah, I think that this is going to be essentially a playoff game in Boston tonight, tomorrow against, yeah, on national TV. So I'm looking forward to just like the atmosphere, the energy, and I'm looking forward to see how players respond to this pressure. Like you said, with it being kind of a playoff style, I want to see how, like, up to this point, the games have been important to the Cavs. They've won every game. They've beat some good teams along the way, most notably the Bucks in the back-to-back. But I don't
And I
actually
said the
know.
Knicks too.
And the Knicks, yeah. And I also don't know how good the Bucks are this year. I don't think anybody does, with the way that they started off. Um, but I'm excited to see how the players respond to the pressure. And I know that, of course, they've played in the playoffs in the past few years and have played in. I mean, that's where we ended our season last year was against the Celtics. So obviously we have that experience. Um, but I want to see how it looks under Kenny Atkinson, how it looks, how the role players play, how kind of stiff he gets. Like if he gets, you know, he starts to shorten up the rotation a little bit, or if he still allows his players to be loose, and to just have fun out there. or maybe not just that fun, but like how he manages the pressure here, and how the team responds just overall.
Yeah, for sure. And I like you said, does he shorten the rotation, right? A lot of times in the playoffs, you might go from playing a 10, 11 man rotation. Well, that's generous, especially for JB. But, the rotations are longer in the regular season. And when you get into crunch time in the playoffs, a lot of times, like, they're shortened to nine, eight players. And, even in the most extreme situations, maybe even seven, because you really want your best players playing all the minutes. So, does Kenny go that far in this game or not? Something I'm interested to see. My guess is that he will experiment. He'll still give everyone kind of like a chance to play their normal minutes, but have maybe a shorter leash and try to ride the hot hand. But if the player is not having it, like I don't know that they'll have the time to explore and really like shoot themselves out of a slump in this type of game. But we'll see. That's what I'm looking forward to. So my official prediction for this game, I've been trying to be measured in all my predictions and not let the fan in me just like take over. In our preseason predictions, and I did predict the Cavs to win the NBA Cup, so I suppose there's a little homerism in there. But I've been really trying to be measured with my predictions, but I'm just going to ride the hype wave here, and I'm going to say the Cavs pull it out and continue the streak. This is just so much fun. The stakes are going to be so high, and I'm just feeling good vibes after those blue jerseys. Those were amazing. And so, how about that? How's that for hashtag analysis? I'm picking the Cavs to win in a nail biter. How about you?
Yeah, I think to me it really depends on how injuries play out. I know that in the game yesterday, Dean Wade and both Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro left the game with injuries, ankle injuries. And I was reading on ESPN this morning that they saw, or some reporter, I don't know, somebody saw Dean Wade leaving the game in a walking boot yesterday. So I think those could be potentially huge blows. Um, when you have a team as big as the Celtics, and with Dean Wade's just versatility on the defensive end, I think that might be one of the biggest things for the Cavs in this game is to respond defensively. I feel like Derek White always seems to just have a huge gaming. Um, every time I've watched the Celtics over the last 2 years, even if the Cavs are playing or not, Derek White is just on fire. So I'm really curious to see how our health is if we have those two key reserves or sometimes starters. Those two have rotated throughout in the three in the starting spot at the three throughout the season. So I'm curious to see kind of how that plays out. I think a lot of my prediction depends on that. I think if they're healthy and they're playing, um, actually, I think either way, I think we do win the game. I think that if they aren't healthy, I think that the Cavs will come in with an extra chip on their shoulder, and we have enough offensive firepower. Yesterday, we had four players score 20 points or more for the first time I think since like I want to say it was the '70s. I was reading about it this morning, but um, our offense has just looked so good. Yesterday it was Darius Garland and Ty Jerome and Jarrett Allen and I want to say Evan Mobley too. Um, it was just an incredible display of offensive performance. So I know that the Celtics will bring a strong defensive pressure to the game, but I want to see if if we respond with that offensive firepower that the Cavs have shown that they're capable of. But against a great team like the Celtics, who won the NBA championship last year, I'm really curious to see how that plays out for the Cavs. And I think that we do win the game. I think that between Darius Garland's offensive genius, he's just so fun to watch this year, and Donovan Mitchell's just consistent, all-star caliber play. I think that we'll be able to pull it out with those two, and then also with Ty Jerome, who played incredible yesterday in the starting role. I think that we'll be able to pull it out.
I
Okay.
sure hope so. I'm feeling pretty good about my beginning of year prediction about Darius being all NBA. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel good about my prediction of Ty Jerome being good. Um, Okay, let's see. Let's move on. Mitchell, what do you think has been the most, or to you, what's been the most important contributing factor to the Cavs' 15-0 start this season?
Yeah, I it's hard to pin down one specific thing. I think there's a few different things at play, but if I had to really narrow it down, oh man, it's tough. It, really, what I think it comes down to is a combination of two things that have just built upon each other and kind of made a 1 plus 1 equals 3 situation with some synergistic qualities to the offensive system that Kenny Atkinson has implemented, and then just individual um, leaps in performance from players. So it's hard to, it's kind of like a chicken and the egg scenario. Is the offensive system working because our players are better, or are our players looking better because they're in a better offensive system? It's I think it's hard to know, but those are basically like the two things, like Garland and Mobley taking leaps offensively, Ty Jerome coming back from injury, and then playing with the type of pace and tempo and selflessness that this system has instilled in the team. I just think it's that combination that has really just propelled the team forward. Not to mention we play in the Eastern Conference, so we're not going against a murderer's row every night, so that's nice. But that's what I would peg it on. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question to answer, like you said, because I mean, obviously we are the fourth team in NBA history to start 15 and 0. So basically, to start 15 and 0, everything has to go right. That's basically how it has to work. Like there can't just be one thing because everybody has an off game here and there. Like I think that you're right. There's a lot of things playing into it. But if I had to peg it on one, I think it would have to be uh, the offense as a whole. And the offense has a lot of things that are contributing to it. The offense, like obviously we have Kenny Atkinson and we have Darius Garland playing much better and Evan Mobley being an offensive hub for the first time. So I think that there's a lot of things contributing to it, but I think the number one factor to me is just the offense as a whole. Uh, that was, I think, the most limiting thing to the Cavs in years past. Like I remember under JB, one of the most infuriating things to me to watch was our out of timeout plays. And we would like almost never score on out of timeout plays. And it was so infuriating. And that's something that Kenny Atkinson has done really well as I pay attention. I don't have any numbers to support this, but just watching it, it just looks more fluid and we're scoring out of timeouts and we're moving the ball in transition. We're getting the ball in everybody's hands. We're trusting guys to shoot, just saying shoot when you're open, um, and it's just been so fun to watch. It's just been a fluid offense. And so that's honestly that's what I'd have to say because it's come down to the wire with a few different games. I think especially the two that come to my mind right away are against the Bucks, where it came down to the last possession, and one of them, Donovan Mitchell, hit like a turnaround jumper at the top of the key to win the game. So I think honestly, just the offensive production has been the biggest factor in my mind to this incredible start that they've gone on. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to the last question of the podcast. Mitchell, what's your prediction for how far the Cavs streak will last? How many games do you think they're gonna win to start the season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I'm going to answer it directly. I don't know if I can make an official kind of prediction, but let me talk through what I'm thinking about. So essentially, right now we're at 15-0. Our next game is against Boston, as we talked about. Then after that, we have a back-to-back against New Orleans at home. That's going to be New Orleans is really hobbled right now and not playing their best ball, very injured. After that, we've got Toronto, and that is one. That's the only game in 6 days, and so we finally get like our first break. Then we've got a home and home with Atlanta. Then we play Boston again. Then I'm gonna hit. Then we hit Washington, Denver, Charlotte, and Miami. And so that's a lot of games, but I think that takes us to 25, the first 25 games of the season. So the way I see it is there's basically like three pivot points. Obviously, anyone can jump up and get you on any given night. That's the nature of the NBA. But basically, we play like three good teams during that time, and that's twice against Boston and once against Denver. And so in my mind, it really comes down to those games. How do we fare? So I'm predicting a win against Boston in this first game. Then it's going to be tough to beat Boston twice during this stretch on December 1st. So if you made me make an official prediction, I would say we get Boston tomorrow. We get New Orleans, Toronto, and both games against Atlanta. So we add another five to our streak and get it up to 20, and then probably lose December 1st against Boston. But if we can beat Boston the second time and squeak by Denver on the fifth, then I think like those are the three games standing in our way of surpassing the Warriors record. So I just wanted to lay that out. If you make me make an official prediction, I'd say like I said, I think we beat Boston the first time, but not the second time. Um, but I'm here for it all. Like I think we've got potential to actually make it 25 games. So I'm really excited for this stretch, and it should be some good basketball coming up.
Yeah, I think I hate to say what I'm about to say, but I don't think the Cavs are going to lose their first game to a good team. I think the
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a letdown game. So I think it's either 16-0 or 17-0. I think that we lose one of the games against either the Pelicans or the Raptors. I think the Raptors especially, they always seem to play us tough. I mean, obviously in the when we played them at the beginning of the year, we cut it. It wasn't all that close. We beat them pretty handily, but you never know with the Raptors. So, and yeah, so I just say one of those two. Either we lose against the Pelicans or the Raptors. And I hate to just like be like a Scrooge, just like say that, but I honestly think like 16 or 17-0 it would be a fantastic start to the season, and I don't think anybody would be upset about that start. And I almost feel like you need a letdown game. Like you need to like let you got to like rest some guys and like be okay not playing, you know, at whatever 80% every night if you want to be fresh in the playoffs. So I almost feel like we kind of need just like a game where they just show up and they just say, okay, we're just gonna play, and like if we lose this game, we lose this game. Um, but we're not gonna go all out. Which I feel like they've kind of taken that approach already, and they've just had incredible offense. But at some point, the shots are gonna fall flat. At some point, they're gonna have a really bad shooting night, and they're gonna lose the game. And I think it's against one of those two. I think it's either the Pelicans or the Raptors.
Yeah, I think that's a wise take. Oftentimes these things don't end in the ways that people expect. So I do think that's a good perspective on it, and we'll have to see how things shake out. But one thing's for certain, this has been an incredible start to the season. We'll be here with you through all these next few games. Hopefully the Cavs can bring their A game and keep the streak alive against the Celtics tomorrow. Basically, there's so much riding on that game, both from an NBA Cup and Eastern Conference standing, and this historic start that the Cavs are off to. All of those on the line tomorrow against Boston, so it should be exciting. Stick with us. Make sure to subscribe, like the channel, give us a review. We want to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, go Cavs.